I think it's time to start this meeting. What do you guys think? Cool. Thank you so much for coming to my bat mitzvah Zoom. What a night. I'm just kidding. We're here for a music town hall meeting. If you're here for my bat mitzvah, that's later. This is very important to be here together as a collective. It's really, as a musician myself, as someone who has toured all over the world and been in the cast of Sleep No More for a long time and played every gig, sometimes 2 to 3 a day, to bartending, to going to Russia, to not going to Russia, to being back here with no work. It has become abundantly clear how important it is for our voice as a community to be heard. And I think specifically to focus today on music and musicians, such a very important and colorful and cultural part of our arts and culture sector. It's important for us to all be on the same page and kind of really voice what's going on in the world, which is a bit scary and a bit uncertain, but I think that being here together kind of helps ease that path and give us some ideas of how we can really push forth safely and successfully. So I don't know if I said it, but my name is Mara Kaye, Brooklyn-born chick here with you today. And I'm joined by some pretty phenomenal hosts. I think they are here. I know we have Brian Marquis here. Thank you so much, Brian, for joining us and being a host with us today. Brian Marquis is the tour manager for Billie Eilish and the band Pianist, and he's also been an artist himself and with other bands for the past 25 years. So I want to ask you, Brian, how this pandemic has affected you, your livelihood, and sort of if you can explain the trickle down effect of being a tour manager and everyone involved on a tour, and also kind of the play on Billie Eilish being such a big star and how that affects her career and the trickle down of people that work for her, including yourself, and how it's affected you as an artist.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great to be working with Be an Arts Hero and doing what we can to keep everybody informed and to keep fighting for our industry to get the help it needs. When the pandemic really hit, we had just started the Billie Eilish World Tour. It was the first arena tour we had ever done. It was all sold out across the entire world, every tour. And we had just started in Florida. And at the beginning of March 8th or 9th was our first show. And we quickly realized that it was just, it was going to be a very, very quickly, we were going to realize that coronavirus was going to play a big part in our lives. And, by the second show, we were unsure what was happening. We were waiting for the word on governments and cities and states because we were on a US tour trying to figure out what's going to happen. Are we canceling? Are we postponing? Are we going home? Are we going to keep going? And by the third show in Raleigh, North Carolina, it was clear that all the governments had finally come to a conclusion that we need to cease all events, over, I think at that point, 100 people. So every Billie Eilish show was 12,000 to 20,000 people, and we had to shut it all down, pack it up, and kind of just head home. And at that point, it felt like a break. It felt like we'll pick it back up on the next tour in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months. And then as soon as we got home and everybody was put under the 2-week quarantine, it really became clear that this was a much, much bigger thing, and it's going to take a lot longer than we expected. So, it really affected, Billie and my crew greatly, because we had just started our tour. We just did all our prep for over a month in a studio, getting ready, getting all the production elements together. So we had to pack it all up and head home, and it was heartbreaking. It was truly heartbreaking to put in all that work and not be able to see it through. We waited a couple of weeks, and then Billie and her family, took really good care of us as much as they could. And it got to a point where, we had to keep having meetings every day on what to do and how to proceed. And we had to eventually lay off, over 80 people on our crew and that's just the direct touring crew. So that was really tough. It was really tough to have to, you know, go through all these meetings, you know, just it got worse and worse as time went on, and the tours got pushed further and further back as time went on. And, you know, now it's, you know, we're 6-7 months in, and we don't really have a set timeline for coming back on the road. I think, you know, arena tours are going to be, you know, some of the last to come back at full capacity because of the sheer volume and the sheer number of people. And, you know, we're competing with all the different sporting venues and all the different sports in different countries and different seasons. So it's a lot to kind of figure out how we're going to get back to normalcy and when. So what I'm trying to do with my time, you know, it's early on, it was really tough to see my crew members, you know, home, and, you know, some of them were having trouble getting unemployment. Some of them weren't qualifying for, you know, PPP or anything for their separate businesses. So it's been a rigmarole of trying to help them. So I've kind of, you know, teamed up with some other tour managers and production managers, and we're sharing information, and we're working with different organizations like Be an Arts Hero and Tour Support to get free mental health care for some of our people who are, you know, having a tough time. I mean, everybody's having a tough time in their own ways during this. So trying to do what I can to help my people, to help the community at large, and to help the arts. You know, it's really starting to become apparent that we're going to start losing a lot more than just venues. And you know, a lot of people are already pivoting to different jobs, and they may not be able to come back to music. It depends on how long this takes. So I'm here to learn. I'm here to be an advocate and do what I can to help my people, and to, you know, talk to all of you, and to keep working together with people who are fighting the good fight.
Thank you so much. It really means a lot to hear some different perspectives. I'd like to turn the convo over to Jerome Crooks, another one of our fantastic hosts tonight. Jerome Crooks is the tour manager for some of my favorite bands that have been on all of my high school mixtapes. We have 9 Inch Nails, we have Tool, we have Soundgarden, the Beastie Boys, Morrow High School represent, all the way from Brooklyn, New York. That's me. And I just thank you so much for being here with us. What a roster, and what an experience to probably work with all these bands for so many years. I'd love to hear your take on what's going on, how your artists may have been able to stay active, how you've been able to stay active, and also you are the co-founder of the Touring Professionals Alliance, which is pretty major, and I'd love for you to share with our community what that is and why it's important.
Okay. Hi everyone. Thanks for having me. And I was on the road with a band called Tool. We'd been out. We started in May of 2019, and we usually take the summers off. July, August, September, October, because the lead singer has a vineyard. So we started back up in October, November, December in the US doing arenas. Then we took Christmas off, started up again in January. February, we went to Australia, and towards the end of February, we started hearing little hints of what was going on in Asia and Italy. And then we came back to the US, and we had about a 10-day run of shows that we were doing. So we started in Spokane, Washington, then we went to Portland. When we got to Portland, the morning that we loaded in, we started hearing that the governor of Oregon was going to shut down the state that day. And the next night we had a show in Eugene. So we started coming up with a plan B to figure out where we were going and what we were doing. So about 11:30 after the show, we still didn't know if we were going to Eugene. By 12:30 a.m., we found out that we were not going to Eugene. So we skipped ahead and went to Boise and took 2 days off in Boise, loaded in on the morning of March 13th. And by 11 a.m., we got word that Salt Lake City had shut down and all the other cities were starting to shut down. And then we got the word that Boise shut down. So I started booking flights for everyone to get home. So for me, March 13th is that day that I'll never forget. So it has impacted the entire touring personnel, lighting, video, audio, pyro, all the production team, the staging companies that build everything, the companies that make passes, the airline, domestic and international, and the hotel industry alone, limousine companies. And, you know, at the 6-month mark, I started working on an organization called the Touring Professionals Alliance. We sent out an email to about 300 tour managers and production managers from around the world to start a conversation to see what we can do to help, and just to have a simple conversation. And that conversation was turned into, we wanted to figure out how we can feed the crew. I don't know if you guys know or not, but on our side, we don't have health insurance. So we don't have a union or anything like that to help us. So everyone either has insurance or they don't. That impacts us dearly, because you start thinking about the bills and you start worrying about when you're getting back to work. And so we started tackling on conversations about mental health and wellness for our crew. And we want to share information as much as possible. And we started a conversation with a lady named Patsy, who is with an organization called the Sims Foundation out of Austin, Texas. And they do really great work. They are, if you have someone, let's say in Europe, or before now, if you had somebody in Europe who was on alcohol and drugs, and well, for instance, let me back up. There was someone in Europe in a band who was on alcohol and drugs, and that person was about to get kicked out of the band, and they had 2 days left. And Patsy said, don't kick them out of the band, support them, get them a little bit of alcohol to get them through, get them here to us in Austin, and we'll take care of that person from here. So they ended up getting that person to Austin. They got the help they needed. You know, when you go through detox, usually it's like $1,000 to $1,500 a day. They were able to get that cost down to $350 a day. So those are the type of things that they do. That person ended up getting out of the program, and he's doing great. So we focused a lot of our support towards the Sims Foundation. There's another organization that does the Music Health Alliance, and they are an industry that, for those who don't have insurance, they help you with finding resources, and they help you as a company that will guide you, and or they will find a insurance company that will work best for you. They don't charge a commission. That's the best thing about them. So we've been giving information to our people about that. And our goal is to share as much information and share as much of the resources that we can to make sure that everyone gets through this during this time. The other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to inform our people to go find work now, go do something different now, because we don't know how long we're going to be out of work. Our guess right now is, if we're lucky, the fourth quarter of 2021 is when we're probably going back to work. I keep telling my people, look at 2022, and if we come back to work earlier, it's a bonus. So what I try to do is I send out emails and I try to check in on our people as much as possible. And we send out day sheets. And in the music industry, we usually get day sheets, or we send out day sheets every single night so that the band know exactly what they're doing the next day. So what we've done is we've created day sheets that have all these resources on them, and we send them out once a month. And we just try to make sure that everyone is okay and that we try to stay in touch. So the idea is, for the 152 people that we have in our organization now, those are production managers and tour managers. They send out all the information to all the crews, which could be anywhere from 30 to 90 people in a crew. So it ends up hitting about anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 people if everyone sends out the emails. And so we're working on just sharing as much information as possible. Hopefully I didn't eat up all the time. I apologize. So hopefully that was helpful.
Please don't apologize. I think your work is fantastic and imperative. I think that's something actually that we're not talking about nearly enough, is mental health during this time, and artists needing this outlet to release these times of stress, and artists, as the people we are, just answering the call when something stressful like this happens. And we are the ones that step in the ring, and we're ready to fight, and we're there, and we're healing song by song. But we're like, okay, well, where's everyone else to rescue us? So that's why we're here. I'd love to thank you, Jerome. That was really important to hear. And for those of you who missed the link is actually in our chat window. If anyone knows somebody that's dealing with this kind of stress, please pass them the link. We need to know our people are taken care of. I'd really love to turn the convo over to Kwami Coleman, our third host for the evening. Kwami is a pianist, a composer, a musicologist, specializing in improvised music. He is from Harlem, New York City. He is also the assistant professor at the Gallatin School of Individualized Study at New York University. So he's spent a life doing extensive research, as you might imagine, on music and its effects on communities and culture. And so here he is. I would love to turn the floor to you, Kwami. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mara. Hi, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here joining you and talking about, this really important, imperative topic. I'll just echo what everyone has said so far and underscore how important the arts are to us for a number of reasons. Obviously, for many of us, this is how we support ourselves, this is how we make a living. But I guess in the time that I have, I wanted to blow the picture up a bit, or maybe take a much more of a kind of panoramic view, and just also remind us, not that we need reminding, the importance that the arts play for us spiritually, in terms of our creativity, in terms of our humanity. Just to preface, just a very brief presentation on that, I have some numbers that I want to share with everyone in here about the kind of spending that New York State and California has for the arts, which may surprise you, may not surprise you, just to put it in context. But just to preface that, I wanted to just offer a little bit about how I got to where I am. As was mentioned, I'm an assistant professor at the Gallatin School at NYU. It's a great job. It's something I take really seriously, and something I'm very grateful for, because, my job is to basically educate people on the importance of music, on how music has been thought about in the past, about how how music's past affects our musical present. And those kind of questions take us in a number of different directions. Some questions have to do with how did music creators even think about their craft? How did they execute it, right? So what were some performance strategies? What are some recording strategies when we start talking about recorded music, which begins to be a thing in the 1890s. So before the 1890s, it was live exclusively and music was ephemeral. After 1890, music becomes something that's recorded, that becomes an object that people can pass in between their hands. So that changes the value of music in some ways, right? Now it becomes a thing that we can share. And that's to say nothing of what music means to us today in the digital age. You know, we definitely do share music, you know, instantaneously, you know, within milliseconds between each other. And I guess, you know, just thinking about our online habits, whether it's Instagram or our streaming services, it doesn't take much to think about how much music means to us. And for those of us here who are practitioners as well, obviously, you know, we're on both sides of that relationship where many of us do value music as this thing that feeds us spiritually, intellectually, but we're also on the creative side as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we may depend on it for a living, but more than that, it gives us a sense of identity and community. And so, you know, I found my way to academia. Just a little more on me. I don't want to, you know, just a little, just to put it in context, because my own father was a musician as well. He was active in New York City in the 1960s. And as it turns out, that's what my book project is about, improvised music, experimental music in the 1960s. But just to make it relevant to us today, I remember time and time again him mentioning in very kind of oblique ways just what life was like to be a musician in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And as you might imagine, it's hard. You know, it's hard to be a freelance musician. It's hard to depend on venues, to depend on an entire infrastructure for regular work, right? Because musical work is labor. And you know, the track record of labor and labor rights in the United States, especially in the last 40 years, has been on a decline. And certainly musicians are a part of that as well. So hearing from my own father just how fragile and how unreliable even the music industry and all of its many manifestations in many areas can be, you know, obviously I made a decision, like many people, to look at, you know, where can I find some kind of stability. So for me, I guess the answer was, well, let me study the thing that I really care about, my craft, and that led me into academia. But I think right now, for the past 7 months, I've been really deeply reflecting and really deeply feeling the effects of the shutdown after, you know, due to COVID-19 on my colleagues, my peers, my friends. It puts me in a situation where I am teaching, albeit, you know, virtually over Zoom, but it does provide me some kind of financial security, right, that I can depend on. All of my peers, my friends who relied on the music industry for, you know, a year's worth of work on the road, off the road, they either had to scramble to find something or they're still in search of something. And, you know, to be in conversations with people and as was mentioned earlier, and feel that sense of sadness, of despair, of questioning, like why, you know, like, you know, for many of us, we spent a whole lifetime training, you know, we've done the thing. So shouldn't we at least be able to rely upon a stable livelihood? And, you know, I think we're all grappling with that letdown and the grim reality of, you know, it's a very long, grim reality if we look backwards into time, but it's here with us today and exacerbated because of this virus. So, I mean, just to wrap things up, I just want to share with you now a little, like some numbers that I found online that I thought would help us put it into perspective. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. So can everyone see my screen? Gonna get like okay, perfect. So these are just numbers around art spending in the year 2020 and 2021 in the United States. And I just want to show you what those numbers look like. So for New York State, population 19.5 million, the state budget for the fiscal year 2021 this is a projection, is overall $185.1 billion. And that's from the governor's website. The spending on education is going to be 37 billion. That's about 20% of that overall total. And I put education there, not just because I'm an educator, but because the arts actually fall under education in the state budget. So I think that should really be significant for us artists, that what we do is, I mean, we can think about it as entertainment, and surely many people do see the arts as a form of entertainment or leisure, but it's also education, right? The arts do educate, they do inform. But even though it's allocated or it's under the schedule of education in the budget, arts funding through the New York, sorry, I'm not forgetting the acronym, sorry, the New York State Council of Arts, is going to be $49 million. So 49 million out of 185 billion is about 0.03%, okay? So that's not a very good number. And last year it was about 43 billion. So even though it's jumping up by a few million, we can see the, the relationship between arts funding and the overall budget. To put it in perspective, here's the Netherlands in Europe. Their population is comparable to New York State at around 17 million. In contrast though, they spent 300 million euro, which is about $354 million on arts in the fiscal year 2020. And they will spend an additional 482 million euro, that's about 567 million in the first half of the fiscal year 2021. And that's more than 10 times what New York State is doing. And just keep in mind the populations are comparable, right? So, what does it mean that, we have a country in Europe that's spending 10 times what New York State does, and New York State and of course California are supposed to be capitals of the arts in the United States. So on that last point, California, population 39.5 million. The state budget is around $140 billion, but state spending on the arts for the last fiscal year is 53.5 million. That's about 0.04% of the total. So just the same, around the same as New York State, and pretty low. So what that means is going into fiscal year 2021 for California, they're going to cut in half their art spending. And I know those are grim numbers, but I just want to put it in perspective so we know what we're dealing with. And I'll just wrap up by just offering, the idea, or maybe opening a space for us to think about, what does it mean that the state, right, our individual states where we live, but also the state as in the country, doesn't spend anything significant on the arts? What kind of a message does that send to us all, right? That we can't rely on our own state to support the very thing that even in a pandemic, we all turn to: music, movies, just the things that, actually help us get through these times of crisis. So this is just a call to action, and, especially for the artists and the creators here, just underscoring our worth and making it clear that folks deserve a lot more. So thank you.
Thank you so, so much. I know for starters, I'd love to take your class, because I feel during this time, not gigging and not teaching and not traveling, I've been working on music that's original, honoring the older blues sound, but really reflecting today's time and what we're going through. And I know Nina Simone said, how can you be an artist and not reflect the times? So here we are. We're really doing it. I'm honored to introduce our co-founders of Be an Arts Hero, which is why we're all here. I'm gonna pass it to you, Brooke, first. I'm gonna let you guys do your intros and say what's up to everyone. And Brooke, if you could also tell us kind of how Be an Arts Hero started and what was the origin of its kind of coming to be where we are now.
Yeah, thanks, Mara. First of all, thank you everybody for being here. It's awesome, and we're very excited to be talking to this community. And we realized when we started, well, I'll go back to that in a bit, but we realized that we needed more direct outreach to our friends in the music community. And so Brian, Jerome, Kwami, Mara have been so generous by extending their communities to us. So thank you so much for making the time tonight. So I'm Brooke Ishibashi. I'm one of the co-founders of Be an Arts Hero, and I'm an actor and a singer. And I'm spent 11 years in New York doing theater, and that's how I met Kwami. And now I'm in LA. So thank you so much, everybody. I'll pass it to Carson.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carson Elrod. I'm an actor, organizer, activist, co-founder of Be an Arts Hero. I'm here in Bushwick, Brooklyn. I want to thank every single person for coming tonight. I really got a lot from the first 30 minutes of this conversation, and I loved having the opportunity of having met you all and starting to partner with you all and work with you all. And so just thank you for everything that you shared. And I am an actor by trade. I perform 8 times a week in good times. But even when I'm performing 8 times a week, what I want to do is when I get done with a show, I want to roll next door to a club. I want to see live music. I want to experience music. I want to be part of it. I want to be part of that world. When I have my Monday, when I have my day off, I am going to rock concerts. Anyway, very pleased to be here. I want to pass the mic to Jenny Grace.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Grace Makholm. My pronouns are she, hers. I'm one of the co-founders and co-leaders of Be an Arts Hero. I'm actor, writer, producer, and director. And I just want to echo everything that was said by Brooke and Carson. I'm so honored and pleased to have you all in a Zoom room with me. Music is my earliest memory is of music. My dearest, closest friends are musicians, and you know, I'm a little bit of an introvert, so sometimes the only thing I really will do socially is go and support my friends as they perform. It's one of my favorite things to do is hear music live. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Matthew.
Hey, what's up, everybody? First of all, thank you to Mara, Kwami, Jerome, and Brian. That was so incredibly informative. I'm like, that was very revelatory for me. So thank you, first of all. I am an opera singer turned playwright, TV writer, and actor. So music was a huge part of my life. It still is. It is not my career at this point. And I am also co-organizer of Be an Arts Hero. And Kwami, I just want to shout out to you talking about labor and how important it is. What Be an Arts Hero is a labor movement. And so the statistics you showed us, we eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. And so you're speaking our language, and that is the argument and the conversation we're having with everybody we meet. So thank you for that. And I just want to amplify that. And I will pass it back to Brooke, I think, yeah?
Yeah, so we like to start these with saying, you know, how we started and why we're here, why all y'all are in this room with us. So Be an Arts Hero started when we looked around and we realized that no one was coming to save us, and that perhaps it was on us to advocate for ourselves, right? Because I don't know, deep down I thought like Tom Hanks, The Rock, like all the biggest moguls in the arts and culture sector were gonna like come save the day. And, you know, in all fairness, lots of high-powered people are doing what they can, donating money, but, you know, we thought Lin-Manuel Miranda was gonna save the entire arts and culture sector, but that's not his job, right? So we decided we would start a grassroots kitchen table movement and do everything we could to bring together a collective unified front, right? Because we realized that our unions, our advocacy groups, coalitions, institutions, that everybody was advocating for themselves, that everyone was going to Congress with their own individual asks. So we thought that why shouldn't we just be advocating for everybody all together? Why don't we unite and become stronger? So we sought to do that. And we've been over the last, I think less than three months now, we're only about 3 months old. We've been doing grassroots, you know, boots on the ground work to mobilize blue collar rank and file arts workers, shoulder to shoulder with celebrities, shoulder to shoulder with arts leaders, institutions, coalitions, unions, guilds, et cetera, doing everything we can to push the needle, to change the conversation, to demand our worth as an economic sector, as one of the largest economic sectors in the nation, so that Congress pays attention and gives us a seat at the table. So we'll go into all the other stuff that we're doing, but that's how we started, and that's why we're here. So thanks for being here.
Yay! I want to direct the combo to you, Carson, and I want to bring up numbers, because I think in all of these talks of us, being emotionally and spiritually and financially affected, I think it's really important to talk about how important and how large the arts and culture sector of our economy actually is, and what we actually make up, and why it's so important to know this.
Thank you so much, Mara. Yeah, one of the things that kind of got us revved up and going when we started this is we were looking around and we were looking at the consequences of what was happening to our friends. People leaving their apartments, institutions that we loved shutting down. A friend of mine was a clown with the Cirque du Soleil, and all of a sudden the Cirque du Soleil goes bankrupt and they're just gone. I was in the middle of having my first recurring role on a TV show, and everything just shut down. I have no idea if that'll ever happen again or not, or whatever. So as we were just looking at the consequences of what was happening in the sector, we were like, okay, it feels like the arts and culture sector got left out of relief, right? We started this as neophytes, as newbies. So, and we thought to ourselves, well, we're probably not that big of a deal. There's so many other things that Congress needs to deal with. So the relief package had to go to the important parts of the economy, right? And so we started being like, okay, well, we'll just, we'll go with our hat in our hand and we'll see if we can't get a little something for us. And then we just started to dig into who we are and what we are to this country. And what we are is we are $877 billion in value added to the country. We employ 5.1 million people. We're over 4.5% of the country's GDP. Thank you, Jenny. That was awesome. I just want everybody to know we've actually never done that before, but she teed that up as if it was I felt like I was John Oliver or something like that for a second. But and here's the thing, it's not coastal, right? That's not California and New York. That's the entire country. There's no state in the union that doesn't have tens of thousands of arts workers, where the arts and culture sector doesn't provide billions of dollars in value to the state's economy. And so the more that we dug into it, the more we went, oh, something is really amiss here. And so we started to dig into CARES, and we were like, okay, well, with the CARES Act, $50 billion went to 10 airlines, $500 billion went to question mark, financial services, et cetera. What is this one going to be? Oh, yeah. Yeah, more great. But yeah, but what we started to think is something is really wrong about the conversation in DC. And this goes to what Kwami was talking about, is what is the relationship between the federal government and the arts and culture sector, not just from a spiritual humanities identity point of view, which is a question in and of itself, right? But what is wrong with the conversation if one of the largest economic sectors, and just to put it in perspective, the arts and culture sector is bigger than agriculture, it is bigger than construction, it is bigger than tourism, it is bigger than transportation. Yeah, look at these. So that's where we are. We're bigger than utilities, bigger than mining, bigger than education services. One of the things Matthew Lee Erlbach talks about is with mining, right? There's only 60,000 people in this country that work in coal. But if the same thing that was happening to our community was happening to coal miners, legislators would be having a wrestling match to come to their rescue. But at this point, the Brookings Institution did this incredible study called Lost Art, COVID-19's Devastating Impacts on the Creative Economy. Right now, there's 2.7 million American arts workers that are completely unemployed. 90% of independent music venues think they're going to shut down completely. Without relief, 60% of independent theaters in New York City, just in New York City alone, think they're going to shut down completely. The Americans for the Arts does a weekly COVID-19 impact statement. 63% of arts workers report being completely unemployed. Over 10% of arts organizations across the country say that they are not confident that they'll be able to survive this. It's over 12,000 institutions that could go away. And so all of this is to say a few things. One, I loved all of Kwami's stats, and I want them all because we've done some really granular work, but I love doing that international comparison. That is super, super helpful stuff. Like, I want to take that in. We're like meeting with Nydia Velasquez's office like tomorrow morning, and I want that. I want that tomorrow morning. But so like I've given some of the stats, and I think just to tell you, like in a bite-sized point of view of like what Be an Arts Hero is and what we're trying to do. Like, we're currently like workshopping a mission statement, but I'm going to read one of the ones that I came up with. There's like, we're workshopping, but this is what we're about. Arts, like Be an Arts Hero, we are seeking to reposition the arts and culture sector in the American legislative agenda so that the creative economy receives the support, the respect, and the investment that it deserves. And so that's what we're doing all day, every day, calling senators, calling reps, trying to reposition who we are and how this country thinks about who we are, because we are a huge part of the economy that's been completely, almost completely left out of the relief conversation. And so that's some of the numbers.
Numbers are wild. Brooke, I really want to turn to you. I think the thing that's important to note here with this grassroots organization is that you guys call yourselves intersectional, and you have a great concern for the BIPOC community and how this economic downturn, which we're all facing, is going to impact them. And what you have to say about the domino effect of how that kind of trickles down.
Yeah, what we're talking about is, massive rates of unemployment. And as we said in the chat, our industry, the arts and culture sector, we're the first to close, we'll be the last to reopen, and most of us have no jobs to return to for the foreseeable future. So if you're seeing around 50 plus million people in America unemployed, and for most of us, our insurance, our health insurance is tied to our employment, most of us are unemployed, you got millions of people who have lost, are losing, or are about to lose their health insurance during a deadly pandemic. So that in itself is incredibly devastating. Beyond that, we're talking about a homelessness crisis of epic proportions. So currently there are around 567,000 homeless Americans, right? So in the coming months, CNBC is projecting that 40 million Americans could be evicted without federal relief. So that's because federal pandemic unemployment compensation has long expired for the last how many months now. In terms of what our president has just recently announced, we're not going to be getting a stimulus package at least until after the election, maybe even until next year, right? So there's no more unemployment benefits for a good while, right? So in terms of the homelessness crisis, if and when 40 million Americans get evicted in the coming months, which at this point would be in the height of winter, that's a 7,000% increase, y'all. 7,000% increase. So at that rate, 12 out of every 100 Americans could then be evicted, and it will disproportionately impact Black and Hispanic communities who are already hardest hit by the pandemic itself, right? So during a deadly pandemic, when Black and brown bodies are dying at higher rates than everyone else, then you team that with the 1-2 punch of the homelessness crisis, in which they're also negatively impacted by gross proportions, and people don't stand a fighting chance. So when we talk about the human toll, that's what we're talking about. You know, our colleagues in the Music Workers Alliance have released testaments from musicians around the country who say they're orphaned, or they have nowhere to go. They can't pay their grocery bills. They're relying on family friends who work at local food banks in order to sometimes bring them home some leftover food because they can't afford to feed themselves and their elderly parents. You know, they can't afford to leave the city. They have nowhere to go. They have no fallback plan. Right. So what we try to stress to people is, you know, I think myself and for most of us, you know, we have family or friends to fall back on, or you know, we still have a roof over our heads or some food in the fridge, you know, but for many Americans and many arts workers, they're not so lucky. So that's why we're working fast and furious, because every day there's the human toll just keeps stacking higher and higher. And a brief note, which is sobering, but I think it's of interest because it's incredibly important. It's also projected that there may be up to 8,164 excess suicides due to COVID-related unemployment in the US this year alone. So when we talk about our friends at the Music Workers Alliance, we talk about our friends with Roadie Care, we're dealing with folks who feel like they have nowhere to go and they have no other options. And so when Jerome has spoken about mental health and passed along those resources, that's something that is incredibly important to us, that information is shared, because people are suffering every day. And it's up to us to take care of our community. So that's the long and the short of it. But for anyone who still needs those resources, let us know, and we're happy to share those with anyone you can share them with.
Should we tell our community about the Dawn Act? Do you think we should move to that very important element of our meeting? I want to pass the mic to my friend Matthew Lee Erlbach. It was actually your letter that I read, Dear Senators, which I hope all of you have seen and also signed. I mean, Matthew, that letter blew me away, and I immediately texted him and said, let's go, let's do this. And so I started helping collect artist impact statements from my community in the best way I knew how to outreach during this time, to connect everyone to really read this beautiful letter you wrote that really kind of expresses it all and smartly states the numbers first, which kudos to you on that. So I'd love, Matthew, my dear friend, for many years, to tell me about the Dawn Act and what we are looking forward to with our help.
Thank you. I think when this letter was being written and the four of us were collaborating on making sure that it was as, specific and consequential as possible, I know that our hope was for it to be this Molotov cocktail of illumination for everyone. And I think that what was surprising was, one, seeing how this resonated both in the theater community, because we are theater people and naturally we are community organizers. It is inherent in the thing we do. We say, come here at 8 p.m. We say, designers, directors, administration, we have a story to tell you. Come here at 8 p.m. and let's gather around the campfire. And so this was unknowingly that kind of thing. And it mobilized our sector, certainly, and it resonates across all sectors, because not only are we a jobs multiplier growing at nearly double the US economy as a whole, which is 2.2%, and our growth is 4.16%, but our institutions and our work anchors a highly interdependent local commercial ecosystem that cuts through every other industry. It's lumber for the sets, it's sound technicians, it's engineers, and then orbiting it, and then some, and administration, and who are the people who are in the front of the doors who say you can't come in, you can't come in?
Ushers, box office.
No, but the people were like, no, we're kicking you out.
Security guards.
Yeah, bounces and security, like even that, like from top to bottom, you know, this is everybody. So I don't know why I'm losing words. It's been a long day. So, you know, but this is also bartenders and retail and hospitality and tourism. So when these star institutions implode, like Second City in Chicago is up for sale. That is the identity of Chicago. There is no Saturday Night Live without Second City. And there's a band on Saturday Night Live, and there's a music act every week. So you have to think about, you know, as our industry mushrooms, it creates larger and larger industries. So to lose that, we're losing the next Saturday Night Lives. We're losing the next musical acts. We're losing not only the very expression of our democracy, but we're losing kitchen table jobs. So what the Dawn Act does is it addresses this. And to go back to what Kwami is talking about in terms of numbers and what we talk about every day is, you know, the Dawn Act is, holistically what we're saying is there is no American recovery without a robust arts and culture recovery. Our fates are tied together. We will only get through this economic darkness by the light of dawn. And dawn stands for Defend Arts Workers Now. Arts workers are the people on stage, the people behind the stage. We're talking about everybody. What this bill does is it says 5% of our generated revenue, 877 billion, is $43.85 billion. 5%. That 5%. Now, Kwame was talking about millions, 0.03%, 0.04%. That is unacceptable. When you have the top 10 airlines getting $50 billion per their $1 trillion in revenue, how is it that we're asking for pennies and they're getting $50 billion? So we saw that and we said, okay, how do we now synthesize what we're talking about in I think it's nearly over 60 US Senate office meetings at this point, and dozens of House rep meetings in the last few months. How do we synthesize what we're talking about? Well, what we do is we take that $43.85 billion and we authorize existing institutions. We're not creating any new government. We want this bipartisan, no new government. And we're authorizing the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and the SBA. We're authorizing these institutions $43.85 billion to make direct grants, not loans. I don't know anybody who can pay back a loan right now, even with the deferral mechanism. And these grants are for the operators, the employees, and the artists that, and we should make sure that every time we say artists, it's a capital A. That is a proper noun in my opinion. Artists of live venues, recording venues, cultural spaces, and the related businesses, and to address the effects of COVID. And so these related businesses obviously are the sound shops, the light shops, the costume shops, Broadway, for instance. You know, when we snap our fingers and say, Broadway, you can come back, which isn't gonna come back for a while, you're just gonna have a ghost light on that stage, because if all the businesses around it collapse, all the sound shops and costume shops, you're gonna have naked boys singing, which I don't know if you know is like an off-Broadway show that was around for a while. So I'm not just like saying naked boys singing, that was like a real thing, but that's what you're gonna have. And so we don't want that. We're trying to prevent that. And what this does is it also retells the story, reframes the story, and rescales the story of who arts workers are, what arts workers are, and where arts workers are. As Carson said, we drive billions of dollars in every state. We're in your communities. We are the reason to drive people into these communities. Chicago, blues, jazz, Second City, Steppenwolf. If this constellation of institutions collapses, you have a galactic economic catastrophe in the state, and you multiply that across the nation, and that is a universe of $877 billion that goes like that. That's not counting all the satellite industries. So what Dawn does, it is the only comprehensive arts worker relief bill that is addressing everyone in this room, museum workers, cultural workers, theater workers, and is saying all of us together, we're not just theater, we're not just music, we're not just museum workers, we are arts workers. And by uniting together and getting behind a bill, getting behind arts policy that addresses us all, we are in an unprecedented moment to change history, to stand up for ourselves and to erase the lines of our industries and stand shoulder to shoulder together and recognize that the sound technician who works on a tour also works in a theater, also is hired by a museum, the light person, the administrative people. This is intersectional, this is interregional, and it is interdisciplinary. So that's what the Dawn Act is doing, that's what Arts Hero is doing, and that's what this movement is doing. So that's the Dawn Act in sum. Carson, I see you, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that's like really hit us is this idea of having a seat at the table, literally having a seat at the table. Despite the fact that arts and culture brings $265 billion more to the United States economy every year than transportation, there is a Secretary of Transportation. You know, there is a Secretary of Agriculture, despite the fact that we're like 5 times bigger than agriculture. So when farmers get in trouble over the last couple of years, there's been 12 to 20 billion dollars of relief and investment in America's agriculture. The same thing when something happens to transportation. Like I said, with CARES, there was 50 billion allocated for 10 airlines. There was 25 additional billion that was for transportation writ large. In the latest version of Heroes, in a bipartisan way, both parties are saying that they agree that there should be another $32 billion for airlines. And it feels like every other day I hear an NPR story about the airlines. And listen, this is not a competition. The entire country is in crisis, and every economic sector deserves and needs relief. But when I hear these NPR stories that's like, without another $32 billion, there could be up to 40,000 airline workers that could become unemployed. And I sympathize with that. But I also sympathize with the fact that I became unemployed on March 12th, and almost everybody that I know is unemployed. And according to the Brookings Institution, there are 2.7 million arts workers in the United States right now that are totally unemployed and have been suffering since March. And so the idea is to demand relief now and get a seat at the table. There needs to be a Secretary of the Creative Economy. There needs to be a Secretary of Arts and Culture. We are too big to fail, and we're too big not to have a seat at the table. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to change the conversation and change the trajectory of the relationship. And also, one of the things that's really fascinating, you guys heard what Matthew was talking about how important we are and how important we are. We do that with pennies, as Kwami was saying, pennies in subsidies or help or assistance. With relatively little public assistance, we spray sunshine and prosperity and money everywhere. So imagine what would happen in this country if there was a different kind of a relationship that acknowledged and respected what we brought to the table. If we had the same level of respect, support, subsidy as any other sector in the United States economy, like our cities would be more prosperous, our people would have better mental health. I mean, all you got to do is like go on to Americans for the Arts and just like look at the social impacts of the arts. Like the arts destroy racism, the arts bring people together, the arts help people heal from PTSD. People inside a venue within 10 minutes of a theater or a concert starting, people's heartbeats start to line up, people become more empathetic. Like there's all of these social things that we all know about. And usually when people go to the Hill, it's all social. Yeah, look at this. Like you can go around this wheel and you can just see every single way in which the arts positively impact society. And this is the way that people usually go to Congress. And they usually say, hey, look at this. We're good for public welfare. We're good for this. And we are. But more than that, the economic picture, so it's socio and economic. And that's what we're trying to do. Like Be an Arts Hero is trying to bridge the gap and say, we've got a social function, and that social function could help heal and save our country from itself. But on top of that, all you got to do is look for where we are, and there's going to be prosperity and happiness. So when we get a seat at the table, we're hoping for more, prosperity and happiness.
Right. Brian, I want to link you back in for a minute here. I think you have something to add towards the impact of the economy around shows. Would love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, first of all, y'all got me so fired up. I just want to march to the Capitol right now.
Yes.
I love that you're all so passionate about this, and because it's really easy to just get really bogged down about how utterly sad this whole thing is and heartbreaking. So when we team up and when I see other people, and it makes me feel hopeful. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of expand upon what Matthew was saying, and Carson, what you were saying about the ripple effect economy that I think is, it's so hard for people to wrap their heads around. It's kind of funny. It's like as a society, especially in America, we're so obsessed with how it works. There's so many TV shows about how something works, how something made, how something built. There's podcasts. When there's an arena show, like, people just don't understand. They don't understand the gravity of like how that even comes to be. Just a one-off Billie show rolling into town. If we're coming to MSG, if we're coming to Madison Square Garden, there's instantly over 500 people that are employed locally just for that show, not including the touring crew of 85 people, not including, Billie's 2 bandmates and then her. A lot of people think of just the artist, just the one at the top, but there's hundreds of people that make that show happen. There's dozens and dozens of more in every other facet behind Billie, going to the label, going to the agency, going to management, going to production, going to recording, and then from there it goes every job at Spotify and Apple, and everything just kind of really trickles out and ripples out from the center of that. But people don't see that, and then you go outside the venue, you go outside MSG, and really what we're talking about with arts and culture is what is it really doing? It's bringing people together, and when people are together, they do stuff. They get out of their house. It gets you out of your house. What do you do when you get out of your house? You're going to use transportation to get there. You're going to eat before. Every restaurant, every bar you meet up before or after, you're going to pay for parking. There's so many crazy ripple economies that we probably couldn't even quantify, to be honest. It sounds like, like when you go to the dentist, your teeth are the most important thing in the world to your dentist. And we're saying that about arts and music, but it really is unquantifiable how important it is to the bigger picture of our economy. Even the not so legal street vendors selling merch and selling food, that's still a part of our American economy just as much as homeless people are. And it really can't be overstated how this isn't about the artist alone. It's about everybody under there. It's about all the things that bring people together, and how much money that brings in. So I think we're tackling something, and you guys are doing so much of the legwork of figuring out how to quantify that in a way that Congress can wrap their head around, because it's the feeling is that the arts aren't that important, or the arts aren't necessary, and they are. And that's not just the ego. That's not just saying, I've chosen to do this, I want to say it's important. It's part of our culture. It's a part of humanity, and it's a hard fight. But I think that's we're on a right path of really getting the hard numbers and going after representation on the level, and speak their language. Let's talk money. Let's not talk about subjective art. Let's just talk about money. And you guys are doing great. So thank you. I'm fired up.
I think Kwami might have his fingers up.
Yeah,
Kwami, go for it.
Just very quickly wanted to echo what Brian was saying too, and just amplify what it means to have an impoverished arts and culture sector and life. The arts is how, as was mentioned time and time again, how we convey ideas, how we transmit ideas to each other, how we learn of and from each other. And I don't want to get conspiratorial, but I mean, especially now, given the current climate. But I mean, it does say something when we invest so little on the transmission of ideas, right? When we spend the least on arts and culture and education, it's hard for me not to see that as deliberate, because as we all know, an informed populace is an empowered one. And so by empowering the arts, we're also empowering our fellow citizens, our fellow human beings, right? And enriching them in thought and ideas and giving them courage to be themselves, et cetera, right? So that's the kind of the more metaphysical dimension, I guess. But I mean, I think we all know it's true, and I know people have talked about it. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you so much. I want to thank you. I mean, this is it's such an inspiring group of people to be immersed in on this beautiful Zoom tonight. I want to bring it back to you, Brooke, if maybe you could talk to us a little bit about Save Our Stages moving forward. I know we're running out of time, so I want to try and get all of the things that are important to hear out. So go for it.
I'll let Jenny.
Yes, Jenny, please take it.
Hi, everyone. So first of all, I just want to say what NIVA has done with Save Our Stages is incredibly important. So we're not saying anything, we're not saying it's terrible. We're saying yes and, not boo, hiss, SOS. But in order to understand why we're saying yes and, you have to kind of understand what SOS, if you're not familiar with Save Our Stages, or SOS for short, what it covers and what it doesn't cover, right? So as the bill stands now, it allocates PPP funding to performing arts venues, producers, promoters, and talent agencies. That's it. Those portions of the arts and culture sector certainly need our help. As we've said before, 90% of surveyed music venues are not confident they'll reopen, and talent agencies are facing massive firings and potential bankruptcy. And we absolutely must do everything we can to help these arts and culture businesses. But what SOS fails to acknowledge is that other arts and culture businesses that constitute our sector, those rely on those are businesses that the music venues implicitly rely upon in order to operate, and those aren't covered in SOS. So theater and music venues may apply for aid, just the venues, but costume shops, instrument shops, set design studios, lighting design studios, AV and audio houses, dance companies and studios, music studios, none of them are eligible or included in this relief package. Now, venues rely on these arts and culture businesses in order to operate. So this bill also fails to address the devastating impact of this crisis on individual arts workers. While a percentage of relief may be allocated to payroll of employees, and those are full-time employees, the vast majority of arts workers are freelance workers operating under short-term contracts and 1099s. They're not covered under SOS. This bill also does not offer relief to our arts and culture unions, whose health insurance budgets are derived from working dues of their members, and their members aren't working. So our unions are now being faced with impossible choices, forcing many of them to kick their members off of life-saving health insurance in the middle of a pandemic. One of the ways I like to describe this is like there's an entire house on fire, and the fire department comes and they extinguish the fire in one room of the house. Now, not only does that not solve the whole problem of the rest of the house being on fire, after a little while, the embers will start to spread back again on the portion of the house that's been extinguished. It won't even solve the problem it's supposed to solve. So, because these venues won't be able to reopen fully without all the technicians that make them work, all of the musicians that perform there, without, they can't open if their arts workers are living under bridges because they've all been evicted from their homes, or dead because they've been infected by a deadly disease and they've been kicked off of their health insurance. So when we're talking about what SOS does and what it doesn't do, we acknowledge that it's super important, and we stand in full solidarity with it. That said, we support, like I said, we support any step in the right direction, as long as there's an acknowledgement that this is the beginning, not the end of allocated relief for the arts and culture sector. Our whole sector is endangered, and our whole sector must be protected. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic to Brooke, who I usually tag to talk about Restart.
Yeah, and the reason why we dip into SOS and Restart, y'all, I'm sure most of you are familiar with them, is that, you know, they at the start of the pandemic, you know, they got a head start. And so SOS, Save Our Sages, is getting tucked into the HEROES Act in the House. You know, Senator Schumer and a bunch of celebrities are rallying behind SOS. And so the reason why we think it's relevant to bring up in a forum like this is because that's where all the muscle and the leverage and the support is going. But we want to say yes, but we want to say we are looking to bring to the table a more comprehensive, holistic, long-term solution. So that's why, you know, when we took these senator meetings and they said, write your own bill, that's what Matthew did. And he created the Dawn Act. And like Carson says, we want to spray a giant fire hose of sunshine and money across the entire sector because SOS ain't going to do it, right? So when we talk about SOS and Restart, and we talk about certain deficiencies, the biggest thing for me is that they only talk about 6 months worth of coverage. So as most of us know, you know, we're already 7 months into this crisis already. Like, you know how quickly money, you know, disappears into thin air within 6 months time. So the fact that it's only taking care of 6 months worth of payroll, et cetera, you know, that's great, but it's a Band-Aid on a hemorrhage, y'all. So it's just not enough. We want more, right? When we talk about Restart specifically, as Matthew said earlier, Restart is a loan program. So it's great. You know, our friends who run the League of Independent Theaters of New York say, when it comes to Restart, it's great, but it's a loan. So even with amazing terms and no need to start paying back principal in the first 2 years, and some of it being forgivable, most independent venues are in no position whatsoever to take a loan under any circumstances because we have no revenue coming in. We have no jobs for the foreseeable future. We're not going to reopen until who knows when. So when it comes to Restart specifically, the idea that it's a loan-based program, it's impossible to so many of our constituents and our members because they can't, loans are completely out of the equation right now. So as we are meeting with so many senators' offices and House reps, what we say to all of them who are sponsors of SOS and Restart and the PLACE Act, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what we say to them is, you know, yes, all aid is good aid. We want it. We'll take it all. But this is why we are now garnering your support behind Dawn, because we need to have a solution that helps everybody in a more comprehensive way, right? So that's specifically for the SOS and Restart stuff. We have more information in the chat if you want to kind of do more of a deep dive, and we're happy to send more resources along as well. But yeah, Mara, that's pretty much the gist of that.
Okay, cool. And now just to get back and try and really get people hyped up, how do we move forward? What are our action steps? How can everyone get involved to really help fight the good fight? Because I don't know about you guys, but I feel good just talking about getting some things moving. So how do we get more involved?
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Jenny.
Go ahead, Jenny.
Nope. Jenny, go ahead.
Sorry. All right. So I got graphics. That's what I bring to the table. All right. We're going to make it really easy and quick and fun for you. We have a letter to the Senate. It has over 15,000 signatures, and it is signed by some of the foremost arts and culture institutions and arts leaders and rank and file arts workers just like you. Matthew Lee Erlbach, right there, penned it, and please add your name to it. The second thing that we would ask you to do is perhaps the most important, which is call your senators. Oh, this is our little graphic for Dear Senators. This is Dear Senators. Call your senators. Call them. Call them. I know people get phone shy, right? We have a script. If you go to our website, we make it so easy for you, it's not even funny. Also, I don't know where all y'all are, but if you go on our Instagram, there are state-specific graphics for every single state in our union with graphics detailing how much the arts and culture brings to your state's GSP. It also gives information about your senators' phone numbers, their Twitter handles, and call scripts specifically for those senators, and tweets specifically for those senators. We also have pre-populated tweets that you can click on, and you don't even have to write it yourself. You just click a link and it tweets for you. So call your senators. Calling them is the most important thing out of all of the things, because they have to record your call. They have to write it down. They take notes no matter what. Even if most of the time you're not even going to reach a person, you're going to leave a message. Well, there's somebody who's hired to listen to all those messages and record what they said. So if there are 200 calls from musicians saying Dawn Act, right? Saying, we would like you to support the Dawn Act and an extension of FPUC and a full COBRA subsidy. Then there's somebody who writes Dawn Act, COBRA, FPUC. And that senator gets that list. That senator gets that information. And very often you get a call back from a representative of that office. It is one of the most important tools that we have in our democracy. Democracy is a verb, and it takes two to tango. I know it feels very disheartening right now, like we're not being listened to, but I promise you, there are people whose job it is to record these, and we are being listened to, because as we've said, we're now at over, I think it's around 63, 64 meetings that we've had with different Senate offices. And the ones that get the phone calls are like, yeah, I heard of you. I got 25 phone calls yesterday about you all. Are you the organization that people keep on tweeting to me about? Like literally we get in meetings with these people and they're like, oh, you're that group that everybody tweets me about, right? So if you think that your voice doesn't matter, we are getting in these rooms because your voice matters. And we're being considered because your voice matters. I know it feels sometimes like you're shouting into the void, but I promise you, you're not. Call your senators. It's the best thing you can do. The second best thing you can do is write to your senators. That one's a little bit more labor intensive, although it's just as tangible of a reward. In the same way, in the same spirit as a phone call, you write a letter, they have to record it. It's logged, all right? And we've made it super easy. If you don't want to write your own, if you see this link right here, actionnetwork.org/letters/artshero, and we'll put it in the chat. It's a pre-populated email. It gets sent directly to your senator's email, right? Just like a regular email, all right? And the last thing you can do is just follow and amplify us. These are our handles. We do days of action. We have different calls to action and for different campaigns that we're doing. It's a good way to keep staying involved in whatever way that we're facilitating activism. Right now we're doing a campaign with young people. We're doing a children's writing campaign. We are getting young people to write to their senators in a letter writing campaign, because they are our future and they deserve to have some say in what their future looks like. It's called Arts is My Superpower. And if you have kids, I think that Mushroom Jesus has 2 kids. This is a way, yes, 2. This is a way for you to get your family involved, and we can slip in some information in the chat.
Also, I want you to know that in the chat are all of these resources and all of these ways for you to find some relief, or at least do some reading on some relief. Thank you, Brooke, for sending all of these. I think we might find a way to email, but if not, it is here on the chat. I know that there are some questions out there. I saw one about unions from a certain someone that I like a lot, that I play music with a lot. He's my partner in crime and also my life partner. He says, Tim McNally says, I'm curious why unions have been relatively ineffective at addressing these issues, and if anyone here can speak to the connection between unions and this movement. anybody out there can talk about the music union. Carson?
Yeah, well, one, all four of us that are co-organizers of this are all union members. Brooke is a union officer, and I know that Brooke will correct me if I'm wrong, but the vibe that we're getting, well, one, there are unions that are joining up with us all the time and are seeing what we're doing and they're understanding the importance of it, but you know, just yesterday, we're seeing, you know, like in the New York Times, like a messy fight between two of the entertainment unions over jurisdiction. And we're seeing certain entertainment unions getting in fights with their own health plans. And like right now, all of these unions and all of these institutions and all of us are in absolute crisis. And I'm going to steal one of Brooke's talking points, is that everybody's like so busy about the fire in their own oven that they're missing the comet that's coming to like to blow up the town. And so what Be an Arts Hero is seeking to do every day is build a coalition that represents all 5.1 million arts workers in the United States. And when I say arts worker, I mean Tom Shoemaker, the head of Disney Theatricals, and I mean Kate Schindel, the president of Actors Equity Association, and I mean you, Tim McNally. I'm talking about all 5.1 million of us, because yeah, of course, labor and management, there's always going to be a bit of an adversarial relationship there, but like if we all recognize that we're on the Titanic together, then we can stop with, you know, trying to like, you know, blow up a tiny like inner tube, and we can all like patch the hole and get the thing back on course. This is a terrible analogy because the Titanic sank. So like, let's imagine a better analogy where everybody lived. The point is, we are trying to create a space in which institution, labor, management, workers, artists, arts workers, backstage, front of house, everyone can come together. So a little bit, that's a long-winded answer to what you're saying, but I think the reason that it may, things may not feel as effective as they could be is that we have not yet united as a sector. And that is exactly what we're here to do, is we're trying to provide that access point.
Yeah, and I just want to say, the unions are in great crisis right now. So we do have the endorsement and support of multiple unions, and we're in talks with some more. But it's very hard right now for them to even focus on something else. I can speak to my own union, which Carson spoke to. Well, I'm a member of two unions. I'm a member of AEA and SAG-AFTRA, right? And they're at war with each other right now. They're fighting with each other right now. As AEA is kicking all of their members, most of their members, off of their health insurance, and changing the conditions with which people can now apply for health insurance, making it harder for people to get back on health insurance. So we're watching, and also AEA is in a feud with, or was in a feud with, Disney. So we're watching our unions have to fight multiple battles at once, all while they're not collecting any working dues. So they're having the same trouble we're having. They're operating basically a ghost ship with like a skeleton crew, because they've had to do massive layoffs themselves. Yep, they're hemorrhaging money. They're not getting any money in, and they're kicking a lot of their membership off of health insurance. And that's one of the reasons why our legislation allocates money, or allows the unions to apply for grants, same as any other arts and culture institution. They're getting hit on all sides. So yeah, we are in talks with them. Some of them have already endorsed us, and some of them have additional questions, because there's a lot going on with the unions, and we're trying to wrap our brains around how best we can help them. That said, that's also one of the reasons why we're here with you all. As I said before, democracy is a verb. We've created, Carson, did you put that form in the chat? Carson created a survey. Now you can check out our website for the language of dawn. And if there's language that you think should be included as a music worker, as an arts worker that should be in dawn, that would help you personally or your organization personally, fill out our survey and help us make it better. We want to build this collectively as a group, as a true democratic process, one where we actually engage with the people we're supposed to be helping. So get into that survey, and if you have any helpful suggestions on how to make this bill better, we want to hear it from you.
Amazing. I want to circle back to our hosts and see if Kwami, Brian, Jerome, if you have anything else to add as we are nearing the end of this beautiful gathering. I just, it's a lot of information to take in. I'm wondering if there's anything you'd like to share with us in closing. Kwami, anything to share? No.
No, I mean, it looks like Jerome was about to say something.
Yeah. The one last thing I wanted to say is we're working on trying to diversify the stage, and I'm working with a young lady named Noelle Skaggs she's in a band called Fits and the Tantrums, and I believe that the next step in our goal is to make sure that we have a lot of diversity in a front of house, back of house, and let's support each other and try to grow. So that's yeah.
Jerome, we'd love to talk to her.
I'm all for that.
I talk to her 5 times a day, so I'll let her know. Yeah. I'll send you an article that she just put out.
I want to make sure that if anyone had questions that we can get to them. I know we're running a little over right now. I want to be respectful of people's time, but I also want to make sure that we can address questions if anybody has any. And feel free to put
I have a question.
Hey, Gold.
Oh, hi. Your name is Kwami, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm currently a drama major at a junior college, and I never had a job in my life, or I never had a job in my life, and I'm worried about the aftermath. So basically, in a nutshell, I'm just worried about the arts in general. I'm pissed off at Governor Abbott's voter suppression. I'm just angry. I'm scared. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm pissed. I'm just
Yeah.
whoa, yeah. I'm just I grew you heard of the Alley Theater, right? I always want to volunteer there, but since COVID hit, it's not been easy. I applied for a volunteer position. I applied for a volunteer position. Let's say they're still closed for news. And according to Alley Theater, they're also unionized, so yay. I'm just angry. I'm angry. I'm just
Hydrated them.
yeah. I'm just really angry. I always want to participate behind the scenes, but now since COVID hit, all the major art stuff in Houston has been closed for notice.
Right.
I don't want the alley to shut down. I've been to the Alley Theater twice during my 2 years at my junior college, and it was amazing. Everyone was nice, friendly, hospitable. I'm sorry, I had to drink my meals today. So.
Well, I think we can get you reaching out to your senators for sure, and certainly there are some modes of relief on the side here. I think also meeting and talking like this is really important. Brooke, can I turn to you?
Gold, I would
say something to add there.
I feel you. We're all really angry and really scared too. And so if you feel comfortable, give us your info, and we are so happy to send you resources so you can harness that anger.
Yes.
Right? You gotta for lack of a better term, weaponize that's the fear and the anger we're all feeling, but use it for good, right?
Yeah, of course.
can you send us your if you're comfortable, send us your
Yes.
contact info. We are so happy to send you all the tools, because then you can join us and you can march alongside us and we can all save
Okay.
the arts economy together. Let's do
Okay.
it.
It's a phone number
Channel
or
that anger.
email? Yeah. It's a phone number or email?
Oh, email please. That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I'm just
And
Does anybody else have a question? Sorry.
oh, thanks, Maury. Just
All right.
did some services. Thank you, Maury.
Yes, thank you. Amazing things are happening in this chat room.
Maury, will you send me your email?
Yes, Joseph. Everybody, please vote. And I know
Sorry about that.
we have some students on the call too, and I don't know if everyone's of voting age, but share information, encourage everybody who can vote to vote and register, and make sure that you got your voting plan intact. Something else I wanted to say, folks, as we're wrapping up, and also again, thank you all for making the time, for being here, for being such an incredible group of people to discuss all of this with. But something I think is important is, we tend to feel paralyzed or stunted, because we're all basically surviving an ongoing traumatic event through this entire crisis, right? So I sometimes forget that we're just living through trauma every darn day. Something that helps me, I think, with all these curveballs that are getting thrown our way, I think the reminder that each individual on this call, that each individual voice counts, that we can do something, that we can actually take it in our own hands to take action, to get Congress to pay attention, to actually get the relief that we deserve and demand it. It's that I think we need to encourage each other to mobilize and do one thing, do one small thing a day, because that counts. And something else is, we're here to start a conversation, continue the conversation, and then change the conversation, right? Because we're here to change that narrative. So the more everyone on this call can identify that your worth as an arts worker is intrinsically tied to a titanic economic value in America, the more we can start to have those conversations with each other, with our colleagues, with our family members, with our educators, our employers, our employees, our Congress people, the faster that narrative is going to change, and the faster we'll be able to get a seat at that table, or 10 seats at the table, right? So I just encourage everyone, to please be in communication with us, and please know that your voice matters, and please know that the narrative is slowly but surely changing, and please know that what we're doing, it's working. It might be a slow sea change, but the sea change is happening. And in this time of incredible systemic upheaval and social reckoning, we have a huge area of opportunity to rebuild, to have the kind of landscape that we should have had all these years. And I think everyone on this call has a responsibility as an individual and as a collective unit to play a part in making that change. So, despite the chaos that surrounds us, if there's one inkling of hope that I hold on to, that I hope everyone on this call can also understand, is that we have an area of opportunity to rebuild, and to rebuild the kind of future that we should have had all along. So please be in touch with us, everyone. And we're here as a resource, but we're also here as a support network, and we're here to advocate for you. So let us know how we can do that, and we're an open channel. Does anyone have anything else that you want to add, Jenny?
Sonia, are you among us?
Yes.
Do you want to? We're having folks ask when our next town hall is. Do we have one scheduled yet?
We have a very tentative date, so I don't know if it should be public information yet. But we're hoping for it within the next 2 weeks.
And what in the next 2 weeks? So what I'll say is, Mushroom Jesus, if you go on our website, you can, or I think Josephine also said this. If you go and you sign up for our newsletter, we'll announce when the next one is. We'll be having them bi-weekly, probably. We're still trying to, we want to cover a different portion of our sector each town hall. So focus TBD, but anyone from any sector is welcome. So if you sign up for our newsletter, we'll let you know when it is and give you a sign up. Cool. And Sonia, I just want to give a shout out since she's still here. She's here. Sonia arranged all of this, so I don't know if everybody wants to give like a little round of applause.
Yay!
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jenny Grace. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Carson. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much to our special, very special hosts tonight, Kwami, Brian, Jerome, all of you music artists alike. It is so important for us to gather together with all the love that we have and all the light that we have in our hearts and really push forth and get this movement going. We are, our founders are working really hard. They're in meetings every single day, sometimes 2 to 5 meetings every day with senators and Congress people, and they're really out there in the front line fighting the good fight for us. So please call your senators, check out all the links in the relief, email us. We love to chat. We love to know what's going on with you. And I think the best way to do this is really just to stay together. Brooke?
Thank you, Mara. I also want to give a shout out to Jenna Rich, who's also spearheading with Sonia. So Jenna, we love you so much, and we couldn't do this without you.
Thank you, Jenna.
Mara, you're amazing.
Thank you guys for having me moderate. It's very special. Very special. Good night, everyone. Thank you. What a night.
Thank you.
Thank you all, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll get through this.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye.